everyone, this is the second episode of my notes from the Alpine Roads, and this is the Lotus Evora 400. This car is exclusively a petrolhead's car. Look at this, with a key from Ford. It also has Ford paddle shifters, and it costs the Porsche 911 money. Only someone who's crazy would purchase this car, right? However, it has all the tech to deliver an enjoyable driving experience. First of all, this car is built on a new Lotus platform. Well, it was new back in the early 2000s, but not much has changed since then, to be honest. Take a look at this. It has an aluminum space frame. If you look here, you'll see the tall sills, and the aluminum profiles run underneath them. Steel subframes are attached to this profile at the front and rear. The suspensions are already mounted on the subframes. They use double wishbones both front and rear. This car is equipped with a Toyota 3.5-liter V6 engine in a mid-engine layout. Furthermore, this version comes with an additional Edelbrock supercharger. The power corresponds to the index. It has 400 horsepower. Unfortunately, this car has an automatic transmission, which is also from Toyota, the Aisin, and I think there will be some small issues. However, it's claimed to accelerate to 100 in 4.1 seconds, so it should be quick. But the most important part of this car is, of course, the emotions. First, it looks like a total DIY creation. If you look inside the cabin, here are messy seams, and here are poorly aligned panels. But, my friends, when you sink into this bucket seat, you seat very low. You insert that Ford key, turn it, press the button, hit the engine start key, and listen. You would agree that just for that sound alone, you could easily pay 20,000 euros. So the overall price of 120,000 no longer seems too high to me. But let's take it for a spin and find out whether the price reflects the emotions this car offers or not. Inside, the Lotus certainly makes a good impression. First, it doesn't remind me any other car. The seating is interesting. You're very close to the front axle because we have a big V6 engine in the back. Plus, the build quality is frankly garage level. But somehow, you know, it doesn't bother me. Like, you understand that you bought a car that was made by hand. In terms of ergonomics, it's not that bad here. The seats have adjustable backrest angles, which is already an advantage compared to the Alpina. Yes, the seat isn't the most comfortable. Yes, it holds you reasonably well, but there's no separate adjustment for lumbar support. I like this cord-shaped steering wheel. The rim is very firm but ergonomic and well padded. Overall, you can sit pretty comfortably here. Even tall people like me don't hit their heads on the ceiling. But all of this, of course, is secondary. Because the main thing is that even at low speeds, you realize the Evora is something entirely different. It's clear that British journalists even consider this the best handling car in the world. I'm not ready to make such strong conclusions yet. But, friends, this is a very interesting car in terms of handling. First of all, it has hydraulic power steering and the rack is quite long. Nearly 3 turns from lock to lock, just like those from the mid-2000s. And I'm having great pleasure from every turn of the wheel here, because the feedback is so precise. The reactive steering is rendered so naturally and intuitively. Just a slight turn of the wheel and you'll notice the response isn't sharp. The Evora doesn't overwhelm you with overly fast reactions, but you immediately get great feedback, and you understand perfectly what's happening with the front wheels. The Evora dives into these endless turns of the Alpine's passes so clearly, with so much feedback. Because of that, you get an excellent sense of the car. It stays perfectly planted on the curve, which makes each turn an incredibly satisfying experience. It has a very neutral character. The Evora literally leans into the curve with its outer wheels and holds. I really enjoy how this car turns. It feels like a mature, refined Cayman. Perhaps there's not as much playfulness here as in a small Porsche, but the stability is remarkable. If you drive really fast, you can notice that as you exit a turn, the car initially understeers, but then it transitions to the oversteer and shoots out of the corner. Also, I must say that the special effects this car brings are wonderful. You should drive an Evora with the window being slightly down so you can hear the entire orchestra creating these bursts. The exhaust note is fantastic, especially when you downshift. Ooh, something incredible happens. Really, first, the air pops like a champagne cork flying out of a bottle. Now that's a real celebration. Believe me, never before have Toyota components delivered such thrill and fun. But at the same time, if you close the damper, the Lotus becomes well behaved and you can drive in the city center. When you start driving at the limit, problems begin because in everyday life it might seem like you have a big V6 engine with a good throttle response and you've got everything you need. Yes, it's understood the automatic gearbox is quite slow, but there's enough torque, and you can drive faster than city traffic, so to speak. But on winding mountain roads, when you hit the gas halfway in second gear after a turn, there's nothing there. Up to 4,000 RPM, the Evora feels sluggish, and it's hard to believe it has 400 horsepower. But who cares? Well, you know, even if this is the heaviest Lotus in the lineup, with almost 1,400 kilograms of curb weight, it doesn't feel like it at all. Subjectively, this car changes direction just as well as an Alpine, but it offers much more feedback. This is a true driver's car, and I'm really glad to have met the Evora, especially in such a beautiful setting, on such great roads. It's been a very long time since I've come across such a genuine and natural car. A true living pleasure. Thank you, Evora. Is the Evora good for daily life? In general, yes, as the British consider it to be almost a Grand Tourer. In the European sense, of course, but at high speeds, around 160 kilometers an hour, the connection with the car fades. It starts to drift slightly while driving in a straight line. Around zero, there's a kind of free zone, so I have to make slight adjustments to the steering, trying to catch the car, and it becomes somewhat uncomfortable. And overall, it's barely noticeable that the aerodynamics working at high speeds. It's clear that Lotus is more about emotions, and while the chassis is tuned superbly and the feedback is excellent, I don't think this car will impress anyone with pure numbers or lap times on a track. But when it comes to roads like these, it's a real joy. It's as alive and natural as the wind here in the Austrian Alps. It's like the cold streams flowing down the mountains. You get true, pure, and unclouded pleasure from this. Thank you, Evora. Thank you for these genuine, authentic automotive emotions. And see you next time, friends. Cheers.